Hello and welcome to In the Crease. How's everybody doing? You are joined by Gregory, Doudna, Scott, Cole. We're here to talk some hockey, boys.
Heck
How's it going,
yeah.
Scott?
Oh, outside of my internet issues, everything's going great. I'm actually casting from my phone on this show today, so hopefully we'll be back up and running next week.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Gotta love technology. Gotta love uh, unfortunate crappy companies and the way they run
Oh,
business,
things
man.
happen all the time. It is what it is, but we make things work. We're here. It's been a couple of weeks since we've seen everybody. Lots of Avalanche stuff going on. Lots of stuff in the hockey world going on. So ready to dive into this and just dive into the last 2 weeks of hockey, man. It's been incredible.
Yeah, it really has. It's been a wild ride. A lot has happened these past 2 weeks. And, since we are Avalanche fans, we got to start off with our boys here in Colorado. The Avs currently sit in fifth place in the Central Division with 17 points, 8-5-1 overall, and 7-2-1 in the last 10. That's something that has got a lot of us here in Avalanche country very happy, especially with kind of the slow start that had everybody a bit worried and everybody calling for Bednar to be fired and everybody not named Nathan McKinnon to be traded. And like, it was weird there for a while, man. So
Yeah,
definitely,
it was it
definitely
was
good to
super
see.
weird to see, but Bednar's not going anywhere. Just signed a new extension yesterday for 2 more years.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm happy to see it happen.
Mhm.
Bednar's been fantastic at every level he's played at. He's progressively gotten this team better and better and better. And yes, I know people are going to say, but we've been kicked out of the second round of the playoffs the last 2 years.
Mhm.
Let's go back 3 years. We just got into the playoffs with Bednar. Didn't have a lot of the players we had now. 2 years ago, it was unfortunate, to go out the way we did against Dallas. It was a really hard fought game. And honestly, last season's second round matchup was more of Western Conference Finals matchup, in my opinion. You have the Golden Knights, who are a Pacific Division team, and us in the Central because of the COVID lineup. We ended up facing each other earlier. So I'll take it for what it is, with everything that's gone on. So I truly enjoy it. And 7-2-1 in our last 10 games without Nathan McKinnon.
Mhm.
I'm going to take that all day.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. And let's go ahead and dive into this Bednar news. You're absolutely right. He signed a 2-year extension yesterday. It runs through the 2023-24 season. Absolutely massive, especially in regards to the fact that for a lot of people, they haven't really been fans, and I'm in the same boat as you, man. I am completely stoked by this. I think it's a fantastic decision. I will say I was a little surprised. I kind of figured that this year would be kind of a prove it kind of season. Seeing as how it was the last year of his contract before this new one, I kind of figured it was just going to be a chance for him to really prove that he's the guy that Sakic wanted, that he's the guy to take this team to the Stanley Cup, win that Stanley Cup. And, so it was definitely a surprise, I will say, in that sense. But when you really look at what he's done, this isn't much of a surprise at all. The man is
No,
192, 154, and 40 in his career with the Colorado Avalanche. He's one win away from tying Bob Hartley for most wins by a coach in Avalanche history. And he's a good bit shy of most in franchise history, as that's Michel Bergeron with 265. But the thing that absolutely blows me away, and especially when we talk about the fact that we haven't gotten past the second round yet with him, um, and that's where a lot of the kind of calls for changes are coming from, is the fact that we've kind of struggled in the playoffs once we've hit that second round the last couple of years. He still boasts the second highest playoff winning percentage by active coaches, just behind the dude who's won it the last 2 years, John Cooper.
yep.
He's sitting at a 558 with 24 wins, 19 losses. And John Cooper sitting at 603. So he's not all that far behind him. And again, you're talking about the dude that's won the cup the last 2 years. So, obviously he's not our coach. You got to go for the next best thing. And clearly
You
Bednar's
do have
proven to
to
be
go
that.
for the next best thing. And here's the problem: who is the next best thing to come into Colorado? You look across the league. I mean, Florida's going to be looking for a new head coach, probably going to promote their interim head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago just fired their coach and two assistants. Seattle, their coaches, their fans are anxious. Vancouver's probably going to have look doing a new head coach search when the season's done, or even
Mhm.
during the season because they're struggling. They won last night, finally, after losing 6 games.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, a quality head coach is hard to come by, and I get it. Fans want to see something different, but here's the other side of it too. Um, Bednar getting a 2 year deal might not, it's not a long term deal. It's more of a bridge deal and stuff like that. But it also gives Bednar the opportunity to work with the players that they've drafted for him and that fit his style of play. If in 2 years Bednar hasn't advanced, we haven't won a cup, so that gives him 3 seasons to win a cup this year and the next 2 years. If he doesn't win a cup in those periods of time with these players, then they'll move on to somebody else. Joe Sakic will find somebody else, and hopefully they'll bring in a philosophy that's a little bit different, but not terribly too bad because you don't want to uproot this entire team and bring in an entirely different offensive scheme out of what they've been able to do lately.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're talking about a team that for the past 2 years has been the best offensive team, the best defensive team. Like, why would you want to change that? Sure, again, it changes once you hit the playoffs. And yeah, I mean, we're two guys that share the frustration. We've absolutely been upset by the way that the last 2 years in the playoffs have progressed, but still, you got to make it to the playoffs. There's still 82 games that determine you even getting there in the first place. So it takes a lot more than just, oh, he can't get us past the second round. You got to look
He's
at it.
getting us in the playoffs. He's
Right.
getting fans in the stands. What
Yeah.
more? I mean, granted, a Stanley Cup would be nice and everything, but you're talking about the cream of the crop. When you get there, there's 16 teams that make it to the playoffs. You or what 32 teams are? Yeah, 16 teams. I was right the first time, I believe.
Yeah.
And then you cut that number down to 8 when you get into the second round. So you're talking the top 8. You're talking the top 25% of the league in the playoffs. That's left remaining. I'm comfortable being considered the top 25%. Would I like to advance a little bit further and get to the conference finals or even the Stanley Cup finals?
Mhm.
100%. And eventually the Avs are going to figure it out. Right now, the way they're playing, McKinnon's out, Bo Byram's out. Newhook looks like a renewed person after spending some time down with the Eagles. I mean, he
Mhm.
was all over the place last night. If you didn't catch the game,
Yeah.
he's putting shots on that. He was making defenders, miss him as he skate by him and everything. So I like what I see and what Bednar is able to do without those big name guys. He's putting people in positions to do better. I mean, who the hell would have thought Nazem Kadri after a blank he put up last season would come out flying this early in the season? The dude's
Mhm.
an absolute steal right now from what we got from Toronto.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And yeah, it continues to kind of prove why he got this extension. For every naysayer that's out there. Yeah, when you look at the things he's done, when you look at what this team has become around him, I don't know how you stay a naysayer. I mean, like you have one thing. There's one thing that can be harped on, and it's second round exits. Aside from that, that's one
What
negative.
else are you going to
And
harp
look at
on?
all the positives. Exactly. So just yeah, it makes way too much sense in the long run to keep him here for now, and yeah, give him the opportunity. And that was something that I really was bringing up to people was how has he not earned the opportunity? He took a team that had 48 points in his first year and turn them into a perennial cup contender. That to me is more than worthy to see what he can do in the long run.
Not only that, but look at the division he's playing in.
Mm-hmm.
St. Louis, Nashville's probably falling off a bit, but Dallas, Minnesota is looking pretty sharper than ever right now. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's some pretty stiff competition within our own division, so it's not a gimme division,
Right.
like you think it would be. So take it with a grain of salt for what it is, but I I like Bednar and what he's been able to do with this team and where they continue to go. And you're right, second round exits, yeah, that's the one thing we can harp on, but everything else is fantastic. He's fairly open and communicates fairly well with, the media. And when they were doing, player meet and greets, he was always there as a coach. I'm like, the guy's an open book.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to get that from many head coaches.
Right. Right. And especially the being a likable guy, and we think so much about coaches kind of like John Tortorella and Mike Babcock that, in the long run, a lot of people kind of saw them as like, oh, these guys are kind of assholes. Like we don't really know that teams want to be playing for these guys. And it was kind of proven at
Yeah.
times. Granted, Babcock had a
I
lot
mean,
of success with Detroit, but yeah, it's hard to be that kind of a person and lead a team. So when you see someone like Bednar that's just so personable and can be so much fun to be around, it makes the situation better.
I mean, if you want an example, look at last night's broadcast on ESPN. How uncomfortable did John Tortorella look sitting there talking with the other two about hockey and everything? He just looked
Mhm.
very uncomfortable in that situation.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like, yep, this is where your career has gotten, bud.
Can't coach anymore. Might as well sit in a chair and talk some hockey
Yep.
awkwardly.
Right. Yep. All right. So let's get into what the Avs have done recently. Because since our last broadcast, the Avs have only played 5 games. It's 5 games over 2 weeks, which, man, that's something that's kind of, I'll be honest, is kind of weirding me out, is how few games the Avs have actually gotten to play. I mean, you look at someone like
It's
Montreal, who's played 19 games. We're sitting at
yeah.
14. Why are we so far behind them in the scheduling
I,
without any
I don't know what's going on,
delays?
and I haven't looked at the schedule moving forward, but
Mhm.
you would think that in a season where they have not only an all-star break planned, but an Olympic break planned
Yep.
where players are supposed to be going to the Olympics,
Hmm.
that they would have more games scheduled towards the front of their season
Hmm.
and kind of laxed in the middle. But I think the Avalanche are going to be one of those teams come the end of the season where they're going to have a game every other night or back-to-back games here and there. I pray to God that Francouz is available. Francouz and Kemper are both available back. When that time comes around, or we've gone out and gotten another goalie to
Hmm.
give Kemper a break because Johansson's not going to be an answer down the stretch when we're fighting for, those crucial division points and stuff like that. But
Right.
you would think there would be more games played across the board, not just the Avalanche and a couple teams who've only played 15, 16 games, but you would think majority of teams would be up to 20 or 22 games at this point, and we'd be, close to a quarter of the way through the season. Granted, it's only November and we've only been playing 2 months of hockey,
Hmm.
but 5 games in 14 days, that is yeah, that pace is very, very slow. And I'm sitting here and like you're telling me I have enough time to figure out my hockey fantasy lineups and my football lineups. Okay.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's just weird scheduling decisions. I don't understand it, but yeah, it's gonna be wild once we really hit the stretch. And like you said, it's gonna be a lot of back to backs. We have our first back to back coming up this next week on Friday and Saturday when we face the Stars and the Predators. And those are, yeah, they're going to be coming a lot more frequent. Like just like you said, and we have an All Star break and the Olympics. Like, there's no way that you can keep this pace and hit all 82 games before the time the
Yeah.
playoffs are up. So yeah,
Uh,
it's going to get crazy there for a while.
it's going to be insane. And I will say this: they talked about it last night on the broadcast during one of the intermissions. The Olympics are not a guarantee for NHL players right now.
Mm,
We hope that we see Olympic players or NHL players in the Olympics for the Winter Olympics and everything. But the NHL as a whole has until January 10th to back out of that deal before, whether it's COVID related issues or something else with travel restrictions and whatnot, as Ottawa's just getting over their issues and will resume play on Monday. Um, but it's something to keep an eye on moving forward, and as teams deal with COVID issues moving forward.
mm.
Um, I know a lot of us want to be out of this whole COVID situation and everything, but it continues to rear its head, and it's still something that everybody deals with, even these NHL and NBA and everything. So just keep your eyes on that if you're looking forward to the Winter Olympics.
Yep. Yep. That's absolutely right. And so let's talk about these 5 games that the Avs have gotten to play. Currently sitting on a 4 game win streak. Fantastic. We have been waiting for something like this. It would have been nice to have a 4 game win streak earlier, but it's like what we've brought up in the past, man. Have some patience. This team's gonna click. And as you brought up before, they're clicking without Nathan McKinnon. They're clicking without Bo Byram. They're clicking
JT
without
Compher.
JT Compher. I mean, like, this is a team that is missing a lot of, a good number of players who are very important to this team, and yet they just keep finding ways to win, and not only win, but win big. They've scored 24 goals over this 4 game win streak. That is absolutely nuts. So let's talk about the first one. That was the loss against Columbus. That was going on when we were doing our last broadcast. We were kind of in the middle of it. I believe we were in the intermission between the first and second period when we were talking about that game, which we were very happy about at the time because we were leading 2-1, and then they found a way to lose yet again to Columbus after a 2-1 lead going into the second. Very strange, but thankfully it seems they kind of turned things around. It kind of helps when you have teams like playing Vancouver twice, which we have done, that first win being 7-1. Sometimes it's like I can't think of the name of the movie right now. The one with Adam Sandler is a remake. There's football players in jail.
Longest Yard.
Longest Yard. Thank you. It's kind of like that. Sometimes you need the team that you can kick the crap out of to build that confidence back. And it really seems like that's kind of what happened going up against Vancouver at home here at Ball Arena and just demolishing them 7-1. That really kind of led into getting to just feel that flow, feel what this team really could do when given the opportunities, which then led to a 6-2 win against San Jose, another 4-2 win against Vancouver up in Vancouver, and then last night's 7-3 win against Seattle. And it's kind of easy to look at it and say, yeah, these aren't really the best teams in the league. Out of all that, San Jose is the only one with a winning record right now. But these are hockey players, man. These are professional teams, and anything that you can get that is a positive against anybody in this league, especially when you're struggling like the Avs were doing earlier, it's a plus, and you've got to take it. So let's get into some of those pluses with seeing what these players are doing. I said 24 goals in these 4 games, and it's coming from some interesting places. We got the team leaders right here. Nazem Kadri sitting up top with points and in a big way with 19. In second place is Gabriel Landeskog with 14. That was something I did not think that we'd be seeing this season. Is like you were saying earlier, the resurgence of Nazem Kadri coming out and really, really having a heck of a season in what is a contract season. So, that kind of adds to things. We've typically seen it that way, that when someone's up for a contract, they tend to play a little bit better. But man, Kadri has taken it and run with it. There for a minute, he had, was it 3 straight games with at least 3 points? He had 2 games in a row with 4 points, and man is just going.
Yeah, it was like 3 games with 3 points, like a goal and 2 assists or something like that. And like just this run of like 4 or 5 games with at least 2 points. The guy's absolutely killing it. He's currently on an 8-game point streak. And I mean, for somebody who kind of fell asleep at the wheel, let's say last year, I mean, we both harped on it last year. I had Kadri on my fantasy team, and I had to dump him because he wasn't doing anything. I wasn't getting any points from him on a night-to-night basis, so I had to get rid of him. And he didn't show up until like the last week of the season, and then even then it was only a couple goals. Seeing 19 points out of Kadri through 15 games is incredible. I mean, this is the kind of performance that you expect from your top line, Landeskog, Rantanen, McKinnon, and stuff. And this is a second line guy that's coming through and shining. Not only that, but he was up on the first line the last couple games. He didn't start on the first line against Vancouver, but he was eventually moved up, and O'Connor was moved down for chemistry and to see how things would click, because O'Connor just wasn't doing anything in that Vancouver game on that top line. As soon as they moved Kadri up on that first line in the third period, boom, we saw him get it. We saw some movement. We saw some action. So Coach Bednar went with that in Seattle, and Kadri was all over the place. I think he was involved in 3 different goals that night, including putting one in the net himself. So it's amazing to see from him. And Landeskog, I mean, what can you ask for from your captain who just got it, just got in contract and everything? What I saw out of him last night was phenomenal on the 2-on-1 play, him hustling back. That was fantastic. So not only are you seeing him do it on the stat sheet points wise, but he's doing it with, through his effort on a night in, night out basis. What do you expect from your captain who's been here for 10 years?
Yeah, it's absolutely right. Yeah. And that's the way to lead. It's something that we talk about, especially here in Colorado, with all the anger going towards Teddy Bridgewater, who's supposed to be a leader of the Broncos, not even having the heart to make what should have been a pretty simple tackle, or at least even the attempt to make a tackle. Seeing someone in the position of Landeskog, who is the leader of this team, like you said, on that 2-on-1, came hustling back, dove, made the play to break it up, and at that point we were already ahead 7-0.
Well,
It's not like we needed
not
to.
only did he come hustling back, I think he had already been on the ice for something like 45 seconds.
Hmm.
So he's on the back end of the shift to go out and do that. I mean,
Yeah.
and being up 7-0 for him to come back and hustle like that was incredible. He could have easily just said, "Oh well, we gave up one."
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, it's fantastic to see, like you say, especially coming in on the contract extension. I mean, I know there was a lot of people who were a little iffy about it and were saying, oh, is this really the right idea? That's a long time, an 8-year contract extension. Is this what we really want to be doing with him? And he's proven he's proven why he got that extension and why he should still be here.
Yeah,
And does it night in and night out. I have yet to see
the
him take a game
extension,
off.
yeah, the extension wasn't the points that he puts up, the goals and assists that he puts up on a night in and night out basis. It's everything else he does on this team.
Hmm.
He's a captain for a reason. You saw it when he came in as a rookie. He had this mature look and feel about him, and you know, this was the next generation guy for the Avalanche to pass on the torch from the Avs that people grew up with back in '96 through 2004. The Sakic, the Forsberg, the Foot, the Hayduk. When they all wore, everybody wore the C or the A. This was the next guy to take that mantle, and we all know Duchesne's kind of pissed about it, but it is what it is.
Hmm.
But I mean, he's not your typical, 100-point scorer and everything. And I think that's phenomenal for a captain to be that person that isn't reliant on to score the points, but to take care of everything else. And Landeskog does it for this team day in and day out.
Right, right. It's being the role player, and he knows his role is to lead this team, to be physical about it, to make a statement, and chip in when he needs to and when he can. But you know, he knows it. We know it that he's not going to be Nathan McKinnon. He's not going to be Mikko Rantanen out there scoring all the points, getting all the stat sheet numbers. And that's perfect to know your role and to fit into it perfectly the way he does. That's very difficult to see in pro sports. And so when you have that as your captain, it's just makes it even
All the
better.
better. I mean, yeah, we all want to see another, Sakic-esque type captain shooting the puck, scoring the goals and stuff. And
Hmm.
maybe 10, 15 years down the road we'll get one of those. But I'm happy with Landeskog as our captain, and I think everybody else should be too.
Yeah.
We got scorers plenty on this team. We need somebody who's going to ground everybody else, and that's Landeskog to a T.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. Going down more of the team leaders. So let's see. We had Kadri 19, Landeskog 14, Kale McCarr coming in with 13 points. Um, Fantastic to see from the young defenseman. Especially again coming off the contract extension, and especially after having kind of a slow start. There was some hiccups there in the start of his season, and his kind of coming back from that injury and recouping everything and getting back to form. Man, these last couple games he's shown that he is back to form, and that's fantastic for this Avs team that keeps having these injury hiccups. We finally get Bo Byram for hopefully a whole season, and he's having a fantastic start, and then he gets injured. We finally get Devon Taves back, who is playing phenomenal, by the way, and we'll actually get to him here in a second. But we're just, we're having so many of these struggles where it's like, man, we need that consistency on the back end. We need that blue line consistency. And McCarr comes in and goes, all right, I'm back. I've got this. No need to worry. And he's sitting here with 13 points. He's got 5 goals already. I mean, he's just having a phenomenal season after, kind of starting off a little bit slow.
The dude's been gypped the last 2 years out, out of the Norris Trophy, first as a rookie and then last year because he didn't play as many games as Adam Fox, or Victor Hedman because of injuries. So I'm like, he's playing with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He's like, I'm the best defenseman. I know I am. You
Mm-hmm.
know, these announcers, these color commentators during the games that are televised, national media and stuff are amazed at what I'm able to do as a skater, and I want to prove a point. And by he is proving a point that he is one of the top premier defensemen in this league and will be so for years to come as long as the injury bug stays away. You
Mhm.
know, that's the biggest thing with Kale McCarr is like I love his speed and his ability. You put a little more weight on them bones, man.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's amazing to see what he's even doing without, without that body style yet. Again, I mean, he's 21.
I
He's
don't
still
even think he's 21 yet.
yeah, he's still a child. In a lot of ways, he's still a child. Has a long way to go, and enough time to grow into just being an absolutely just beast of a human being.
He'll be a beast. I mean, the fierceness you see on his face after
Mhm,
scoring a goal and just kind of just like, yeah, that's what I meant to do. It is
mhm,
incredible. I mean,
yeah.
they call him rosy cheeks or whatever else you want to call him, but this dude has the fierceness about him when he plays.
Uh,
So I look forward to watching it for years.
Oh, exactly. And the fact that he's still willing to throw hits, he's still willing to step into people, and that's where what we were talking about 2 weeks ago when we were kind of having issues with Sam Gerard's style of play. The guy was too small. Thankfully he's kind of turned things around point wise, but yeah, that's not something you see from Kale. He's willing to step up and hit someone. He's willing to get in someone's face and make sure that you're not just going to go around him, and he's not going to try and just knock the puck away. He's going to make the smart plays when he can, but if it comes down to, oh, I need to hit you now, he's going to hit you, and he's going to hit you
Yep.
hard. So yeah, throw a little bit more meat on those bones, and holy crap, he becomes Nathan MacKinnon, the second, and they're gonna hurt some people. All right, so rounding him off, we got Mikko Rantanen sitting with 12 points, kind of what we all expect, and he's having a season that everybody pretty much expects. And then to round out the points, you've got Andre Burakovsky and Nathan MacKinnon tied with 10, which is fantastic to see, seeing as how we've now been missing Nathan MacKinnon for 2 weeks, and he's still expected to be out for at least another week or two. So he's put in where he can, and after missing 2 games with COVID, he's being the Nathan MacKinnon that we all know he is. Eventually, the goals are really going to start kicking in once he's back. But nothing we have to worry about there. The thing that does make me really happy is Andre Burakovsky. He's been having a fantastic season as someone who needs to fill in these roles, needs to step up when necessary, and he's done exactly that. He's had multiple 2-goal games in very important games. In situations where it's like, okay, we're really missing people. There's a very good chance that this is not our game, and he still goes out and says, "That's fine. I'm going to put up my numbers. I'm going to do what I can to help this team." So it's fantastic to see him playing the way that he's been playing.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, Burakovsky, like you said, he's that guy that's got to step up when these injuries to the top two lines come out. Burakovsky is an everyday uh, top two line for any other team in the league. And he fits in on our second and third lines, believe it or not. And the second line, JT Comper is gone, so that's usually that third line guy. But Burakovsky's one of those guys that's going to have to eat up those minutes with both Comper and MacKinnon gone at wing. Especially when it comes to crunch time, if we're down by a goal or something, Burakovsky's going to see a lot of ice time until MacKinnon returns. And for those of you who didn't catch the broadcast last night, MacKinnon just got back on the ice for the first time yesterday in a skate, here at the practice facility, and just trying to get his skates underneath him again after dealing with his injury. So, like you said, we're still a couple of weeks away from seeing MacKinnon hopefully back out on the ice in a non-contact sweater, and at a game. So until then, Burakovsky really has to step up, and he did a fantastic job last night, scoring 2 goals.
Mm-hmm.
And these were fantastic goals. One on the power play, right spot, right time, as the puck came to him in a wide open net. And the second one was just as amazing as the first.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. And he even leads the team with 6 goals, tied with both Landeskog and Rantanen. And that's exactly what we're talking about, man. To be able to come out and the fact that doesn't say Landeskog, Rantanen, and MacKinnon. Granted, again, Nathan's been hurt; he's had COVID, but still, it's Nathan MacKinnon. He could do something like that, but instead, it's Andre Burakovsky that's sitting in that top spot, tied with those two for 6 goals. And yeah, it's fantastic to see it. The way that he was able to come over from Washington, the signing that Joe Sakic made to bring him over, there was a couple questions of, okay, this guy, he was a role player for Washington. He wasn't really one of their big guys. He's obviously no Ovechkin or God, I am just blanking right now. But he wasn't really, yeah,
Backstrom.
he wasn't Nicholas not Carlson. Anyway, it's been one of those days. He wasn't really a star player for Washington, so bringing him over was kind of okay. What did we really get when all is said and done? This is what we've gotten: a player who can absolutely step into the shoes when need be, and plays even better when he doesn't have to. When the eyes aren't on him to perform the way that he has to, he does even better. When Nathan's out there and the top line is healthy, he makes that second line so much better because you're finally getting, the opposing team is, okay, we've survived the onslaught of the first line. Oh crap, here comes Andre Burakovsky alongside Nazem Kadri, and they have just eaten us alive.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's fantastic to see him playing the way that he has, and I can't wait to see what happens for the rest of this season for him, because it could very easily be a career year for him.
Oh, 100%. And David touched on it last night. He's playing the way he's going to play. He's going to set career highs in every category. And, potentially, start looking contract wise, might price himself out of Colorado, but if he really likes the way where he's playing and the coaching staff and everything, he could sign here again, for less money and stay because he knows what we're capable of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's obviously what we'd all hope for. And then rounding out the last half of the top players for goals, you have Nazem Kadri, Cale Makar, and the surprise JT Compher tied for second place with 5 goals. The fact that JT Compher is on this list is just, it's fantastic for this team who, through the struggles of injuries that we always have and always seem to be going through, through any dips from the top line, to have someone like Compher come out and have, hopefully another career season. It's been fantastic to see what he's been able to do, because this is a guy who, a lot of people were kind of saying, oh, last year is kind of a dud year, and he hasn't really been playing up to his potential. And when you really go back and look through his career, that kind of was his potential. He never really was a light the lamp all the time, make the big plays that teams need to. He's just, he was a good third line center
player.
Yeah. And so the fact that he's coming out and playing at a very high level, at one point was the leading scorer on the team and was the leading goal getter of the team. And, what can you say about the guy other than this is his year? And unfortunately he's injured for a while. I believe I saw here that he is expected to be out until at least December 14th is what the most recent report says.
We got a while.
Yeah, so we have a while till he comes back, unfortunately, because man, he was on fire to start.
Not only was he on fire, his line was on fire. Mm-hmm. You look at what his line mates and Tyson Jost and Valeri Nichushkin have been able to do. Valeri Nichushkin on the penalty kill last night, shorthanded goal, and who's the first assist on that? Tyson Jost.
Yep.
Just the maturity in that third line that the Avalanche have when they're all completely healthy. Like you were saying earlier, we got done with McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen line. Oh crap, here comes the second line. Oh crap, here comes the third line. Oh shit, there's a fourth line? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
The matchup potential for this team is just phenomenal. And that's why I think Bednar really shines. And I'll go back to Bednar on this, is he can put his third line out against a top line, against a first line, give his first line guys some rest to go out against the weaker depths of some of these other teams, in creating these mismatches and better scoring opportunities. So, and Compher's been a part of that. JT Compher is a fan favorite. Everybody loves him. Everybody loves the Mark Mosier call. 877 goals now. You can't get enough of that. But I want to talk about one thing, and that's these 6 names you have across the bottom: Landeskog, Rantanen, Burkowski, Kadri, Makar, and Comfort. Every single one of these players are a double-digit goal scoring potential.
Mm-hmm.
I'd happily say 20 goals for most of them. Comfort might be that 10 to 15 mark, potentially 20, depending on power play time he's given and all that other stuff, and injuries and whatnot to the team. But every single one of these players can score at least 20 goals. Landeskog is a 20 goal scorer per season on average. Rantanen has gotten the 30 goal mark a couple times. Burkowski has done a 20 goal score, I believe. Kadri's done it a couple times. Makar as a defenseman, you best believe his ability to see through the traffic and everything is going to make him a pretty consistent 20 goal scorer as a defenseman in this league, which is difficult to do, to say the least. But that's why he's always in the talks of the Norris Trophy. So, I mean, the ability of these 6 people, and there's a name missing from this list. His name's Nathan MacKinnon.
Mm-hmm.
The ability of some of these players on this team and what Sakic and Bednar have created is phenomenal. So for these guys to have 6 and 5 goals already, 15 games into the season in an 82 game season, that speaks a lot. We're not even a quarter of the way through the game, and most of these guys are 25% of the way to that 20 goal mark.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And this is something I want to bring up that I find very, very cool as far as the name that you pointed out was missing in those 6 is Nathan MacKinnon. Here we have the assist leaders for the team. You have Nazem Kadri sitting at 14, which is amazing, and we will get to in a second. But Nathan MacKinnon sitting in second place with 9. Now, again, this is a dude who missed the 2 games to COVID and has missed these last 2 weeks due to injury. This is a side of his game that we haven't really seen before. He's really been the goal scorer for the Colorado Avalanche. And when Rantanen joined the team and he really kind of picked up a goal scoring mantle, it kind of picked up a little bit. But man, the pace that he was on this season for assists is just absolutely nuts. And if that's something that is going to become a full-time piece of Nathan's game, it just turns him into yet another weapon. Everybody knows that he can go out there and score the 30, 40, hopefully someday soon 50 goals. But man, if he can start racking up the same number or more of assists, I mean, that turns him into such a destructive player to try and play against. The fact that you never know what he's going to do now. It was already a crapshoot of, okay, how is he going to beat me this time? Well, now he's going to beat you with a gorgeous pass over to Rantanen or to Landeskog or to Kale, and they're going to beat you. I mean, to keep adding more elements to your game, especially when you've been in the league for, what is he, 7-8 seasons at this point. I mean, that is just unreal that
it's incredible to see.
Better.
It's absolutely incredible. And you brought up another point. He's missed the last 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
He's missed 5 games over these last 2 weeks. We've not seen Nathan MacKinnon on the ice. And he missed 2 due to COVID. That's 7 games out of a potential 15 games, which means 9 assists in 8 games. But that's an incredible pace for Nathan MacKinnon. Yeah. Well, I'm not talking, Valeri Nichushkin. I'm not talking, Sam Girard. I'm not talking anybody I'm saying Nathan MacKinnon, the guy who has an A on his chest.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, like you said, Greg, is a perennial goal scorer. That's what he was signed to do. That's what he wants to do. And he's dishing the puck out to other players and getting them and letting them get the goal. It does add another element to his game. It makes his team more dangerous, especially on the power play, which has been just blowing up this last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. They're turning everything up after not being able to put the puck in the back of the net for the first week and a half.
Right. And that's something interesting. I kind of want to touch on that a little bit here. It almost feels like the best thing for the Avs power play was in losing Nathan MacKinnon, because they had to figure out that creativity. They had to figure out, okay, we can no longer just skate up the ice a little bit, drop it off for Nathan, have him come in and get to our setup spot that just was not working. We finally got to see, especially last night, man. I mean, I saw there was at least 3 separate power plays where they were doing stuff I hadn't seen yet this season. I hadn't seen for 4 or 5 years. They were finally having to make different plays. They were finally having to be a little bit not as cute with passes. You know, the creativity kind of had to also come from being a little bit dirty in front of the net, you know, getting the garbage rebounds and getting the goals that way. And it's been absolutely fantastic that, you know, it comes at the cost of not having McKinnon on the ice. But if that's something that they can kind of see and go, hey, this is working really well, you suddenly add McKinnon back into that, and that becomes so good.
That is if they continue to do what they've been doing, which is passing the puck during power play. You saw it very late in the third period. They had a power play, or and I think it was the second period, towards the end of the second period. They kept the puck in the offensive zone the entire 2 minutes, leading up to the horn to sound the end of the second period. And they had multiple shots on goal that and plenty of scoring opportunities. So if they can add McKinnon back into the power play and be that effective with McKinnon in the power play instead of McKinnon setting up in this spot like Ovechkin does, then cool, I'm fine with it. But here's the other side of it. Leave McKinnon out of the power play. Save his time on ice. Let him rest. Use your other players, because you've seen that other players have the ability to step in and do phenomenally well on this power play. Your power play has been succeeding at one of the NHL's best rates over the last 2 weeks without McKinnon in it.
Right.
So why not leave him out of it? I mean, people are, Scott, you're an idiot. McKinnon's probably one of your best weapons. But hey, if you look at his time on ice, he plays some of the most minutes of anybody on the team outside of Cale Makar. Why not give him, a minute 30 of that 2-minute power play on the bench and let other people fill up that time?
Sure. Oh, honestly, that's a fantastic idea. In the reality of the situation, without looking at it from the emotional side of, well, it's Nathan McKinnon, he has to be on the power play. No, look at it realistically, like you were just doing. This team has succeeded on the power play without him on it. Don't change it. It's what I brought up. The whole if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If something's working, keep doing it. So, and especially in that sense, man, can you imagine Nathan McKinnon on the second power play?
Oh my goodness.
Suddenly you're going against the opposing team's second penalty kill? Oh my God, he could do some work.
Do it. I mean, and that's what I love about this team. They have so much versatility, and we've seen both the top power play unit and the second power play unit succeed. If you're letting McKinnon rest that first minute 30, because most times your first power play unit is going to see 60 to 75% of that power play time on the ice, because they're not having to chase the puck. There's not, unless you give away a shorthanded breakaway chance, which Seattle did last night. You're not going to have to hustle as much outside of your zone to catch up with somebody, because they're just wanting to change their players and get penalty killers onto the ice. So give McKinnon that last 30 seconds with the secondary unit, because most likely your secondary unit for the penalty kill is going to be on the ice too, like you were saying, Greg. And I think that's going to open up more opportunities for McKinnon.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get back into these leaders just real quick so we can finish this off. Kadri sitting up top with 14. Man,
it's gross.
He's just right. Gross. Yeah. I mean, just God, he's played so well.
Gross in a good way, people. Gross in a good way.
Right. And then you have Captain Landeskog, Cale Makar, and Sam Girard rounding off the list with all tied with 8 assists. And that's where you're saying, Sam finally kind of got his game back. He had I believe he had a 4-point game, and then the next game, I believe he had a 3-point game. I mean,
when the trade rumors start flying and your name's connected to them,
yeah,
all right, now I really got to pick up my game. Otherwise, they're going to ship me somewhere, and I don't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hopefully that was the case. And people, Joe can just, kind of quietly just slide his name back off the trade block. Just, right. Yeah, okay. Now you know what we will do if you can't keep this going. And then the plus-minus leaders, you've got Gabriel Landeskog sitting at a +9, which is fantastic, especially after the struggles early in the season when the top line was responsible for a lot of goals against. That was a a pretty big minus in the first couple games. But he has absolutely been just an absolute wrecking crew. Kind of goes back to what we were talking about, the fact that he might not get the most points all the time, but he is out there making the plays he needs to make. He is making the responsible plays, and he's just making sure that this team just keeps firing on all cylinders and is absolutely getting rewarded for it with the plus minus. And then you've got the three defensemen who have been massive for this team: Eric Johnson, which is fantastic to say and see; Devon Taves, which absolutely blows me away, seeing as how he missed the first half of this, the first 10 games,
Month and a
something like
half.
that. Yeah, I just missed a massive chunk of this season, and is already sitting at a +7. And then you have Bo Byram sitting at 5 and Kiefer Sherwood sitting at 3. And Bo Byram in there. Love to see him back on the ice. I hope his concussion symptoms start to go away, because that, as someone who's dealt with it, as someone who knows many, many people, and as fans of sports, we've seen what it does to professional athletes. And to be so young for this to be happening to him, man,
19 years of age
yeah,
and dealing with post-concussion syndrome already
yeah,
is just heartbreaking. I mean, football players, they deal with getting hit and everything. The padding's gotten better inside the helmets and everything else, but I mean, CTE is such a detrimental thing, and they're still studying the effects of it long term. But I mean, I couldn't imagine being 28 and having spent 10 years in a professional league of some sort and barely being able to wake up and remember where I am at time, or where I left keys or something like that, and
mhm,
knowing that it's because of repetitions of concussions and post-concussion syndrome, creating what later becomes CTE for some of these athletes. It's just heartbreaking. And for those of you who didn't read it, Cale McCarr put out an article, talked with some people, and talked about how he felt like his career was at an end already because of post-concussion syndrome, and got his mind right and everything else, and things started to relax, and now he's dealing with this concussion issue again. So might be some time before we see Mr. Bo Byram back out on the ice.
yeah, yeah. He's currently sitting on the injured reserve. He's not injured reserve. He's day to day. But yeah, I mean, that was after he took that elbow to the head against
That was the
Vancouver
first
in the first
Vancouver game,
game.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the first one. And he passed through concussion protocols, and then uh, skated the next day in a non-contact sweater, and everyone thought, okay, he's all right, and it was good to see. And then he ended up missing the next game against San Jose due to not feeling well, and kind
Yeah,
of having the symptoms come back, and that
I
just
think
it
he came out for morning skate, like practice or whatever. The
right.
game before San Jose, got on the ice, started skating around, felt really bad, really dizzy. Told the coaches, "I'm not feeling great, really dizzy, blah blah blah," and they're like, "Don't worry about it.
Hmm.
Take care of yourself. Take care of what's going on," because they know his injury history. And
Right.
um, I mean, it's hard enough. People think it's easy to track a black puck on ice. It's really not that easy. Um, the brightness of the ice and the lights really affect your eyes, and for somebody who's dealt with concussion stuff, it is makes it even more difficult at times.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we hope all the best for Bo. Above all else, I want him to be okay.
One
We
hundred
always
percent.
say, have a speedy recovery. If it takes a while, it takes a while. Just I want him at 100%. That's what truly matters. So, you know, hopefully it's soon. That'd be cool. But as long as he's back at 100%, that's all that really matters. So let's talk about a little bit of news throughout the past 2 weeks. One of which being that Colorado claimed forward Nicholas Aube-Kubel off of waivers from Philadelphia. And then in just the second game with the Avs, Aube-Kubel scored his first goal against Seattle last night. He's been
First
interesting to
goal of
watch.
the season too.
Yeah, his first goal of the season. That's right. Yeah, he's been interesting to watch. Anytime we get a new player, I am always curious how it's going to go, and we'll kind of key in on them anytime they're on the ice. I really I will say I dig that he's kind of put on a line that makes the teenager line, because you have him at number 16, Tyson Jost at 17, and then Alex Newhook at number 18. I think that's kind of cool. If nothing else, I get a kick out of that every time I see them out there. But he seems to be playing okay. The first game I wasn't too excited with. He had a couple turnovers, didn't really look like he was in the best position all the time. But definitely in this game last night against Seattle, it seemed like he really picked it up, made a lot better decisions, and was just out there in a much more kind of positive light than he was in the first game against Vancouver. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, kind of what role he has. Obviously, we still have Martin Kaut that's out on injured reserve, who is expected to be back at least, or is expected to be out at least until the 22nd. So, gives him a couple days to come back, but he would kind of fill in that role where Abe Kubel is. And the one that I've really been hoping for is someone who has just been tearing it up in the Eagles, along with when Alex Newhook was there, which is Mikhail Maltsev, who we got from New Jersey. So it's always interesting to see players fill in roles when there's already players for those roles. But I'll say that after last night's performance, I'm a little more okay with his level of play. After the first game against Vancouver, I was not too on board. But you've also got to see what you've got, and that's exactly what the Avs did. So
I think Abe Kubel gave the Avs a great piece that they could use, whether it's short term or on a longer term basis, up on the NHL roster. It prevents them from having to call somebody up, and then go and try and place them back down, or call somebody up and they'd be out of waivers for them to pass back and forth. So they don't lose anybody from their farm system, and it really works. Kubel's had some time with the Flyers, skating up on their NHL league, so you get somebody who's a little more NHL ready and capable to jump in somewhere, especially on like the third or fourth line. I think he's been playing with the fourth line. So it hasn't been terrible to see, and it was nice to see him, like you said, looked more comfortable in the play style and scheme. I think in that first game they just kind of like pulled him off the point, like, here's a uniform, go out there, have fun, kid.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's like, I don't know what to do, but okay. Not knowing what the scheme of the team was. But now that he's been around the team for a while, he looks a little more comfortable and relaxed. So definitely somebody to keep our eyes on a little bit more. I'm happy they found a new home for the number 16 that was donned by Nikita Zadorov. But be interested to see how he gels with the rest of the team. And like you're saying, Mikhail Maltsev's really blossoming down or up in Loveland, I should say. And I sincerely hope we get a chance to see him somewhere down the line with the Avalanche in a crucial game or something. But at least he's contributing somewhere and getting plenty of ice time.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that really becomes interesting when you look at kind of how they had the taxi squad last year, and the players who are really at that in between stage, and kind of where Alex Newhook was for a little bit, and why he got sent down, because it's so interesting to see these players who are just too good for the AHL. Newhook was just tearing it up, was at well over a point per game. Maltev's in the same boat right now. He's well over a point per game. And, so it's difficult because, like you said, that he's getting plenty of ice time, and that is massive. That's something that you absolutely need when these players are developing, and you don't want to take them up too early. You don't want to take them out of a groove. But it just becomes difficult when they're at that direct in between, that it's like, okay, you're way too good for the AHL, but you're struggling at the NHL level. Like, how do you get that balance, and where do you fit in to make sure that you progress and not
go talk to Tyson Joe. She's got some pointers for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just latch onto that, man, and don't let go. Yeah, so yeah, I'm hoping for it. I was really excited with that trade, sending Graves over and picking up Maltsev. Just because he was someone I'd never heard of, so I was like, oh, let's do a little deep dive. And yeah, what I saw from him was like, oh my god, this kid can play. So yeah, if he can really find his game, and fill into the Avs in the right way, oh man, he can be an absolute stud
Yeah,
at some point in his career.
he could be phenomenal once he gets the call up and finds that position. But it's going to be interesting to see who goes down or what happens as far as providing him with a roster spot.
Hmm.
And as far as I will say this, I think we won that deal between Graves and Maltsev because Graves is not having a great time in New Jersey at all.
Yeah, yeah, not at all. Yeah, and it's and that's where you run into just really, really tough decisions. And we've said it in the past, man. I am not jealous of Joe Sakic in his position
Mm,
whatsoever. My God, trying to make these decisions would absolutely keep me up all night, every night. I mean, it's great to be in a position where you have an absolute just like embarrassment of riches, but how do you manage that, and how
yeah,
how do you do it every night?
I mean it
I'll
was
never
like
know.
last year we sat there when he traded Ian Cole to Minnesota. We all were kind of baffled by the trade and when it happened. But then we sat and we looked at it. I think like the moments after, it was like, well, we have plenty of defensive depth.
Mhm.
Bo Byram is killing it down and with the Eagles, so we're going to call him up and all this other stuff. And then one thing after another happened. Johnson went down with his big injury. Bo
Mhm.
Byram went down with his concussion issue. I mean, it was just one thing after the other to our defensive court. And, towards the end of the season, we were like, can we have Ian Cole back?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a balancing act to get some of these younger talented players into this roster. And like you said, Joe Sakic's got to be staying up all night or, spending 20 hours a day just kind of looking at the roster and calling other GMs and being like, hey, what do you guys need? What could I entice you for this person or entice you for that person? I
Mhm.
really want to get this, I want to get this kid up, but I got to give him a roster spot. I got to give him a spot, and that requires me getting rid of somebody else or scratching somebody else on a night to night basis. So it's a tough decision to make on a day to day basis, and then cap space comes into it too on an everyday game basis because you have to submit your roster and they go through and like, all right, that's this much against the cap, that's that much against the cap. Well, you guys are only going to skate with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen because that's you've maxed out your cap space.
Mhm.
There's a lot that goes into the stuff that we don't see behind the scenes, and um, I'd love to just be a fly on the wall for a day or two.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, especially when when we're talking about depth. I mean, the fact that yeah, we have players at the Eagles that is at the Eagles level that is just absolutely killing it, and on both sides of the puck. And you brought up Justin Barron. Someday he's going to be on this NHL or on this Avalanche squad full time. He's an absolute diamond in the rough that Sakic was able to find, and
Thank you,
once he's
McKinnon.
ready, yeah,
Shout
once
out to
he's
Nathan McKinnon for whispering about Justin Barron to Joe Sakic.
that's right, Halifax boys, man,
Yep.
they know what's up. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what he's able to do, and again, all a balancing act. Um, to round it out, we are going to talk a little bit about injuries, just because we are getting towards the end here, hitting the hour mark. But yeah, just some stuff to look forward to. Players who will hopefully be coming back soon. So you've got Nathan McKinnon, who is still out with a lower body injury. Said he is on IR, expected to be out until at least December 1st. So it's still at least another week and a half there. Like you said, yesterday was finally the first time he was able to get back on the ice. So, it's going to take some time, but as we've said this whole broadcast, you know, the Avs are doing fine without him. So,
Yep.
just like with Bo, take your time, get back to where you're 100%, and then get back out there. JT Compher, who we talked about earlier, will be out until at least the 14th, is what is projected right now with an upper body injury. And then Bowen Byram with concussion issues that we've been talking about quite a bit. Like I say, he is currently listed as day-to-day. That could all change. It's such weird stuff, still things that we are learning about. Health is a it's constantly evolving, it's constantly transforming, and especially when we're talking about the brain, that's something that even with it being 2021, almost 2022, holy moly, we're still learning things every day about how the brain works and all of that stuff. So hopefully it'll be all right. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. Like I said before, get to 100%, man. That's the important part. You also have Martin Kaut, who is on injured reserve with a shoulder injury, also expected to be out until at least November 22nd. Pavel Francouz with the ankle injury that he suffered back in the preseason. He is expected to be out until at least the 22nd. And then Stefan Matteau, who is out with a leg injury, also expected to be out until at least the 22nd. So the last three players are all on injured reserve. At this point, it's just, whenever they're ready, they'll be pulled back in. And then it comes right back to what we were talking about, man, that balancing act of, all right, now who do I send down? Where do I put them? All the fun stuff that very thankful I do not have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
No, we just report it. That's all we do.
Yeah. Yep. We see someone say something and go, hey, cool. Here's the info, everybody.
I am looking forward. If there's one player on here I'm looking forward to seeing come back, it's going to be Pavel Francouz on this list. A high ankle sprain that he suffered in preseason. It's a terrible injury. If you've ever had a high ankle sprain, you know what I'm talking about. It absolutely sucks. Just when you feel like you're 100%, you go take a walk, you step on a pebble, you roll it again, and you're like, crap. Here's another 2-3 weeks of recovery process. So I'm sure the Avalanche are doing everything possible to try to keep Pavel Francouz from re-injuring it and rehabbing it as much as possible. But he is the stronger goaltender as far as the backup goes over Jonas Johansson. No, not trying to shame Jonas Johansson for what he is, but Pavel Francouz was the expected backup to Darcy Kemper, and I'm pretty sure the coaching staff would love to get back to that, especially as the back-to-back games become more frequently. And Kemper can't play every game, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It would be kind of nice if he could, but speaking of Kemper, just to round it out with a little more positive, since we typically try to do that, we don't want to end on negative, so we won't end with the injuries. But yeah, let's talk about Darcy Kemper real quick, because the dude has absolutely flourished, and was yet another one that, when the season started, everybody was like, oh man, I don't know that Kemper was the answer. The dude's currently sitting at 8 wins, 4 losses, a 259 goals against average, and a 915 save percentage.
Take it.
Yeah, like what can you be upset about at this point in the season?
I mean, you could be Chris Dreiger and Philip Grubauer.
Yeah, exactly. It could be so much worse. So, and the fact that over the last 5 games, I mean, he's had a sub, a sub 2.0 goals against average. His save percentage has just been astronomical.
I think the last 5 games he's given up 8 goals.
Yeah,
8 goals to I think 31. I think it's a difference.
Let's see, 10, 11 goals over 5 games. That's
okay. That's not bad.
Take it.
Take it. Take it. You're talking about a 2.20 goals per game average.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if the standard in the NHL is 3 to 4 goals wins you a game, and he's at a 2.2 goals against average per game over the last 5, I'm taking that in a heartbeat. No. And granted, some of the 3 goals last night were all kind of garbage time goals for Seattle anyway, so
right.
It's bound to happen in a 7-0 blowout.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You take away last night's game, which we were winning 7-0. If there's ever a time where 3 goals against in a row is ever a whoop-de-doo, it's kind of
there you go.
The time when that happens. Yeah. So you take that out, and it's 7, 8 goals over 4 games.
Yeah.
And that includes a loss.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're at
I'll
a
take
2
those.
goals against, 2 goals against average. His save percentage at that point, and the average of that would be 935, 940 over those 4 games. Like, my God, those numbers are just absolutely beautiful.
Phenomenal.
Would take that any day, any
Yeah.
year. I mean, yeah, the dude
By
is
the
just
way,
absolutely.
I figured out what happened last night when we gave up 3 goals that quick, like that in the third period. Gary
Yeah.
Bettman called the Colorado bench, is like, "Hey guys, it's a new franchise. I know we don't want them to be like Vegas, but they need some goals. Come on."
Right. Yeah. Be nice to them, guys. Come on. I mean,
I
they've
mean, we're
got
spending
Philip
all this
Grubauer.
money advertising for them on ESPN every time we have a hockey game. For the love of God, just let them score some goals.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So, like you say, he can't play every game. I wish he could. That'd be awesome. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Pavel Francouz coming back, I think, is the number one of that list. Um, and it's crazy to say when that list contains Nathan MacKinnon.
Right.
But yeah, it's like we've talked about before. Our offense is fine, our defense is fine. It's our goaltending that needs to stay where it is or get better. And in order to get better at this point, hopefully having Francouz back, I'd love to see him playing again. I would love to see, has he lost a step? Has he, has all the rest led to something great where now suddenly he just feels like Superman, I would love to see what he's able to do backing up Darcy Kemper. And, hopefully those two can stay healthy through the year and we can actually see a just absolutely insane goalie tandem go into the playoffs and just dominate.
That's the hope. That's the dream.
Yeah, exactly. That is the dream. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Scott. Hopefully the internet problems get figured out soon because that is
Gosh,
just
I hope, man.
ridiculous.
Now they're saying they can't get a check out till Wednesday. I am calling customer service on Monday and having a very large discussion about potentially switching services somewhere else. So we'll see what happens and we'll go from there. But yeah, it was great getting back together. Hopefully we'll get this going on a week-to-week basis so we're not covering as much. And we'll go from there, man.
Yeah, definitely. To everybody who joined in, thank you so much. Be sure to join us next week. I will be able to do next week. I don't have anything on Saturday that will be. So there we go. We can finally, hopefully, start getting this week to week like we've been planning to.
And keep your eyes out for a new rebrand coming along for InTheCrease as we have rebranded Rocky Mountain Sports Report into Rocky Mountain Sports Network. We're going to do a rebrand on InTheCrease. We have some other shows returning, so keep your eyes and ears tuned out for that, and check out the Facebook group page for more information in the coming days.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you all so much for joining us. I have been Gregory Doudna here with Scott Cole, King Cole himself. Thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to tune in next time. Obviously, keep your eyes posted as we, keep doing game updates, stuff like that, injury updates, all the stuff that we do throughout the week. We're not just the show on every Saturday. Be sure to stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone have a wonderful night, and we will see you guys next time.
And a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.